Bonjour, je m'appelle Tim O'Brien, j'habite à Austin, Texas. Je suis l'auteur de Si je meurs au combat. Et maintenant en anglais. When I was in Vietnam as a combat soldier, all I could think about was getting out of the place, staying alive and returning home to my family and to peace and to a sense of decency and civility. However, in my life since Vietnam, I find myself at times yearning for the compression of life, the proximity of death, those late nights out on ambush where you're so aware of all you might lose. You're never more alive than when you're almost dead. You value things that you never knew you valued, and you value them with an intensity that surprises you. I don't want to go back to a war, but I do understand that in situations such as a war of great stress and trauma, you make discoveries about yourself that most people will never make. Good things, but also some really terrible things. My dad, my father in his older years, used to tell me it's getting old is not for sissies. And I've learned that, what he meant by that now as I approach my 65th year, that the shadow of death gets closer and closer. And I do think about it late at night and sometimes early in the morning, especially since I have two young children. I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, two beautiful little boys. And as I get older, it occurs to me that they may never really know their father. Life is short and hearts are fragile. And I think it's the juxtaposition of my age with these two little boys that makes me think about death a lot. In the same way that 4 decades ago, as a young man, I also thought about death a lot during my time in Vietnam, when it was right in front of me with every breath I took. How would you like to die? I don't think there's a happy answer to that question, but it would probably be with a cup of good French coffee and a French cigarette, and I'd be a happy guy. There are many, many books, thousands probably, that have influenced me, including children's books, the Boxcar Children, and little comic books when I was a kid that made me imagine being a writer. When it comes to serious books, many would come to mind, but 2 of them are French. One is Madame Bovary, and the second is L'Étranger. And there's an English writer named John Fowles who wrote some really magnificent books. He was wildly popular in his day and has seen a kind of decline since. He wrote The French Lieutenant's Woman. He wrote The Magus, but he had a little book of short stories called The Ebony Tower, which I think is a magical book of short stories. So those are 3, but of course I could go on for 2 or 3 hours. Well, I have a lot of faults and a lot of flaws. This is one of them right here, the cigarette. But I would probably name a very strange flaw, which is the flaw of fantasy. That because I'm a writer, I live a good portion of my life in a world that doesn't exist. In the world of dreams, of characters in my stories and in my novels. And there are times when I really lose myself in those characters. That can be a big flaw, where the real world and its pedestrian, trite detail can seem petty and very monotonous by comparison to the world in which I'm living as a novelist. And when I leave this room where I'm talking right now, which is my study where I write, and I go into other parts of the house, it's as if I'm leaving an ideal world, a world of adventure and love and romance and exotic places and danger, walking into the world that awaits all of us, the world of the tile setter and the plumber, the mailman, having to do dishes and so on. There's a line from a poem, I can't remember the author right now, I think it might be Keats. We had fed the heart on fantasy. The heart's grown brutal from the fare. And when one lives a life of fantasy, as I do as a writer of fiction, the heart can get a little stony and a little hard when you go out into a world that's not as exciting as the world in which I live as a writer.